I had the opportunity to meet a really great boss, probably one of the best leaders that I've had in my career. That was instilled in me a long time ago by a boss that I had at a big major corporation, and he was very generous with my time. So I've in turn taken that and just made it the same way in my own company.
If the person doing your recruiting is not thinking about hiring top talent 24/7, that shouldn't be the person that's doing your recruiting.
If you're not treating your recruiting the same way you treat your marketing for sales, you're missing out. Like there should be no separation in church and state there. Your marketing team should be creating marketing material for your recruitment. You should show up at a job fair the same way you show up a sales, right? At an expo.
Welcome to Coffee Break with Jake. We have this call every Friday at 11 a.m., and I'm so excited to see all of you here. On today's call, what I'm hoping to discuss with you is how to attract talent, how you're attracting talent to your company, how you're attracting talent, how we're collectively attracting talent to this industry. I think a really good way to understand attracting top talent is to understand why each of us might have gotten into the industry to begin with. I think if we look back and figure out what attracted us to the industry or what keeps us involved in the industry, then that would help us to understand how we can attract more folks to it. And so, first of all, what I'd like to do is I'd like to understand how many of you found your way into the security industry by accident. And this is an important part of the conversation for me because I would bet that most young people and most professionals aren't thinking of a career in the alarm industry. And I'd love to understand how some of you stumbled into it. I'm going to start with Shannon Few. Shannon, I'm so glad to have you on. And I'd love to understand how you found your way into the security industry.
So I took an internship when I was in college getting my MBA at Publishing, which I'm sure some of you know used to publish CE Pro magazine, security sales and integration now. And I actually took an internship working for the organization, and I was doing attendee recruitment for the Electronic House Expos. And then that just kind of evolved. Eventually, we kind of spun out and started AE Ventures, which was managing the Electronic Security Expo at the time. So that's really kind of how I quickly jumped into the security industry from there.
No kidding.
Completely random, unplanned.
So, as you were evaluating internship opportunities, was there anything that stuck out to you about the opportunity with Publishing?
So it was super close to Bentley University where I was going. The people were fantastic that I was working with, and I was super interested in learning just about the industry itself because it was, cool kind of smart home technology. This is back in 2001. So it was really kind of in the infancy of getting rolling and started. The Electronic House Expos had just been launched. So it was pretty fun and exciting.
And that was, you said in college or after college?
2001. I was getting my MBA at the time. So I had just graduated undergrad and then was still there for school, my MBA portion.
What have you enjoyed most about the industry?
The people. I think this industry just is made up of some of the best people on planet, honestly. I'm looking at
Finding
some of the
fi
faces that I know and
finding a
uh,
great husband, finding a great
having
husband.
having a wonderful husband, John Loud.
Not John
I
Loud, to
met
be
my
clear,
husband in
John
this
Loud is
industry.
not Shannon's husband.
No, 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 no.
Thank you for clearing that up.
There's a transcription going on, and the AI transcriber might not understand that dialogue, so I don't want that to be on the record and misconstrued.
Breaking news, Shannon and John Loud are married, right? That would be pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, to John's point though, I met my husband in this industry, right? I mean, but in all sincerity, we have so many close friends that have become almost like family through this industry. And I think our industry is just made up of incredibly ethical people that operate with integrity. And that's, who we want to be around. And Of course, the industry itself is incredibly meaningful in the work that you all do. I can't say that I do the work that many of you on this call do, but it's a very noble industry. So I think those are kind of my favorite aspects of the industry.
Yeah, I had a real kind of I guess light bulb moment the other day. I was talking with one of our dealer partners who they saved an entire family. And I posted about this on LinkedIn, but the carbon monoxide sensor that they installed saved the lives of an entire family while they slept. And I realized that I sold them that carbon monoxide detector, right? So like,
Right.
I didn't install it. I didn't call the fire department. I didn't wake that family up in the middle of the night, but gosh, how fulfilling is it to know that like I sell products that save people's lives. So I think that's really cool. I'm glad that you saw that internship and that you had that opportunity and that it's brought our paths together here. And we've got
Absolutely.
Scott Simmons on the call. Scott, tell us about how you stumbled into the alarm industry.
Well, way, way back. So I actually started, my best friend in high school's dad was a cop who knew a guy that owned an alarm company. And so my senior year in high school, I started part-time telemarketing.
Ah.
I got to call residents during dinner time and try and set up an appointment for our sales guy to sell them an alarm system.
That's awesome. And so how long did you do telemarketing?
Not long.
It's a tough gig, I always
It
tell
is.
folks, even when I was kind of starting things out here, not even cold calling, but just calling the existing base of customers over and over again. People get frustrated. People get a little frustrated with phone calls, it seems like sometimes. But I think it's an important skill set. I think that it builds tenacity and grit, and I think that it's really helpful. D- I think this. I'm curious. Did you find that your experience telemarketing did it help you in your career in any way?
Definitely. I mean, I think it helped just to, you know, get those rejections that, especially as a cocky high schooler, like I wasn't used to.
Yeah.
People are saying no. People are calling me names and hanging up on me. So yeah, it built a lot there. Fortunately, I didn't have to do it for too long, but
Where did you
uh,
go from telemarketing?
I kind of became so I stayed with the company for about 6 years till it got sold. And I did everything there. We had patrol service, we had guard service, we installed alarms, we had a central station. So I got to do literally everything. I mean, I installed, I was a guard, I drove our limo, I provided private security, worked in dispatch. So it was great to kind of get to know the industry from that level. And it was funny because then when I left there and I actually ended up going to our distributor, uh, wholesaler that we were buying from and got into sales. And by that time I had worked my way into operations and I was the operations manager. So I'm like, I'm not a sales guy. I don't want to do sales. But then I kind of leaned back on my past and went, okay, I can do this. But it gave me that background so I could identify well with the installers and the dealers that we were working with. And it was weird finding out that not all alarm companies were like that. It was my only taste of the industry, and so finding out that, yeah, not everybody has their own central station and has their patrol service and all these other things. So it was eye-opening, but I was glad I had that background.
Do you credit in any way the flexibility of your first employer there, giving you the ability to move from one position, which maybe was not what you wanted, but then be able to move into some of those other roles and get experience from different aspects of the company? Would you credit kind of I guess the flexibility that he provided as to why you might have stayed with it as a career?
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it like that, but yeah, I would say for sure, that was definitely a part of it. Because if I had stayed, you know, as a telemarketer and just or gotten let go when they closed the telemarketing slot, I probably never would have been in the industry. And, kind of like Shannon said, I've met tons of great friends and, lifelong people through this industry. And so, yeah, I think having that flexibility definitely made it because one, I was eager to work. I mean, I worked, 18 hours a day most days because I do my regular job, and then I'd do guard stuff after, I just wanted to make money. But allowing me to do those different things definitely made it so that I stayed with it, because otherwise I probably would have moved on to something else.
I just want to highlight a couple of things that we just talked about there. Number one, Scott talks about being eager, talks about being willing to work long hours and work hard, even as a young person. Talks about being money motivated. Um, I think that those are qualities that are so important as you're hiring people, right? Somebody that's willing to work. Number one, that's a good quality. That's an exceptionally good quality. Somebody that's willing to work more than a lot of other folks, right? There's a lot of people that are not wired to work 18-hour days. That's not to say that you should absolutely, you have to work 18-hour days, but gosh, when you find somebody that's willing to put in that kind of work, you hang on to them, right? Somebody that's willing to work and work hard. Um, but then you find that maybe they're not in the right seat on the bus, right? Scott didn't like telemarketing, but the dude was willing to work, wanted to work, and his employer at the time found other places to put him and to give him that experience and to help him kind of channel that into a fulfilling career. So, number one, thank you. Uh, Thank you for sharing that. I think that's some really great points that we're able to pull out of that. So, number one, we have Shannon, a MBA student at the time, found her way into the alarm industry through an internship, right? So we have internship here as a great way to find really great candidates. We're also talking about Scott, not that many years ago, but some years ago as a young man, being attracted to a company where he could work, where he could have some flexibility in finding what he liked to do, where he could get the hours that he needed in order to, make the money to do whatever it is that young teenage Scott wanted to do with that money. I'm sure there was lots of fun had with that. Um, but I just want to call those things out because we're talking about young people here and attracting young people to the industry, and I think that's important. So, Gage, tell us about how you stumbled into the security industry.
I was fresh out of the Navy, looking for a job. So
Oh
I
gosh,
was
we're just getting a perfect mix of scenarios here. We have MBA student, high school student, veteran. I'm just like, I couldn't have teed this up any better. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Gage.
yeah. It's it was I wasn't even completely out. I was just on my terminal leave, and I just stumbled upon a job opportunity that came up, and I saw it said security sales, and I ended up applying to it and got an interview. And I think I had the opportunity to meet a really, really great boss, probably one of the best leaders that I've had in my career. And we just chatted it up. And I think the conversation back and forth, he just kind of felt I was just excited. I was ready to take on anything. And at the time, they were starting a new channel of business for them, kind of trying to get the three-legged stool. And so I was a part of the um, I was a part of the commercial division that they were starting, and so I was ready to take that on. Prior military, I played sports. All of his sons were military and sports too. And so I think just behind like that work ethic and the team building, it kind of just resonated with him. And so I got into it that way by chance. And I came from the medical field while I was in the military also. So it's like a complete flop. Wasn't anything that I was even understanding or used to. So um,
What drew you to that ad? So, um, you're a young person. You'd played team sports. You had a military service. Um, what drew you to that particular advertisement for a job?
when I was looking, I remember specifically when I was looking at that advertisement at the top, my boss's name was Kevin, and he said right at the top, it was, this is, it was low commission, so not low commission, but low salary, but then, higher on the commission percentage. But it was, you get what you give. And so,
Yeah.
I was looking for a job that was gonna, test me. I had been on this type of lifestyle where it's like every day you're told what to do, exactly what to do. And I was ready to go out and kind of build my own thing and, take a challenge on. And so, that just kind of resonated with me where, you get what you give. And I always felt that way through sports and just, the military. You get back and can accomplish things through what you give. And so, and how much effort you're putting in. And so that kind of just, stirred it up for me. And I was the only person who applied to that actual job that went through the full process. And there's like a secondary customer service experience survey that you're supposed to take. And I was like the only person to apply to it that went through the like full thing because I was like, why not? I don't have a job. I have the time to take care of this. And so that's what he gave me a call at like 9 o'clock at night and was like, can you be here tomorrow morning? And I was like, well, I guess the plans off to cancel, but yeah, I'll be there. So it was,
Yeah. I think when we talk about attracting talent, we don't want to attract just anybody and everybody, right? We want to attract people that are going to be the right person for the job, right? And so you look at somebody with Gage's experience. People talk about sports athletes as being good hires, particularly for salespeople. They're driven, they're competitive, they're coachable. Um, I never played sports, so I'm probably a terrible salesperson. But they do say that salespeople, as you're hiring for salespeople, looking for people with sports backgrounds is important. Now, as a veteran, as somebody with military service, I can tell you that Gage, he mentions doing whatever you're told day in and day out, right? That structure, that's somebody that's willing to be able to operate within structure. But then here's what's really, it sounded like this was exciting for you, Gage. Number one, you had what seemed like maybe limitless potential, right? Limitless commissions, right? You could go out and make money based on the effort that you put in, and you got an opportunity to be entrepreneurial, to be able to start something new within the company. I think that a lot of people, not everybody, some people want to be put into a role that's well defined in a and like, everything is already ironed out. There's structure. They know what they're doing. And then there's some people that really get excited about getting a chance to build something, whether that's on their own or within an organization. Gage, can you speak to me about what you liked about the opportunity of building this commercial side of the business?
through sports, and then while I was in the military, I was kind of always in some type of just leadership role. Especially in the military, I ran a clinic and in Bethesda, Maryland, at Walter Reed at the hospital, and so it was just kind of like I don't, it's probably just how my brain works a little bit, but just being able to build something and kind of structure it the way that I saw um, things to start working out. I had the opportunity to learn a brand new industry that I had no idea about, and then also build upon that myself with the intentions of fully expanding and having a team. And so I think just being able to, pass on some of the knowledge that I had through experience in the military, and then building something for a company that saw value in me as a person, just meant a lot to me. And taking the opportunity on me because I was just fresh guy out of the military that it was a chance that they took with me, and so a lot of that drew me towards wanting to go and build something with them.
Yeah. So working for Kevin, what would you say was the best? If you talk about him being one of the best leaders that you had, if you could narrow it down into a couple of key attributes, what would you say made him such a great leader?
He's a very very personable guy. I think it was just he's a good salesman. I'll really start with that. He's a good salesman, and that's the reason he was in the position he was in. And when we started talking in the interview, it was really about like where do I see myself, and then him trying to figure out, are we going to be a good fit for you, and can we help you achieve your goals? And so he kind of set that standard for me like right up front, and so that felt more of like somebody who was bringing me into a business that wasn't just like hey, go off and sell. Like, I don't care about you. It was like I was coming into something that was like a family type. And like he truly became like he was like a work dad for me. I mean, we spent a lot of time together molding and building that small business and then commercial division. And so I think I think those things are kind of like some of the big stuff is just being able to actually be level with me. And it wasn't like it was somebody that was like, hey, he's my boss. So it was like I still had the respect for him, but he could joke around with me and made it a really, really good work environment. And I think when I'm when I was looking to get into something, I came from the military. Not that the military is bad, but the culture is a little bit different in the military, and I was looking for a change in culture. I was looking for something good, and that's just kind of what I felt from that. I was looking to have a place where I could. It wasn't just a job, and when I worked there, it never felt like that. It just felt like I was doing something that I ended up truly loving.
Yeah. So a couple of things real quick. Gage talks about his boss being a good salesperson. Um, if you're hiring salespeople and you want them to be good or great salespeople, either you or somebody on your team ideally needs to be a good salesperson, right? Somebody that can mentor them, somebody that they can learn from, because they, if we're attracting people, particularly from outside the industry that don't know it, you have to think about, hey, how is this person going to be successful, right? And so being able to work with somebody that is good at what they do, that's willing to mentor. I also want to point out uh, that Kevin had called him at 9 o'clock at night. Might have just gotten missed by most of us on the call. But if the person doing your recruiting is not thinking about hiring top talent 24/7, that shouldn't be the person that's doing your recruiting, right? Because I imagine Kevin probably saw some kind of notification come through. Hey, this is the candidate's information. Oh my gosh, he's checked all the boxes. He's actually gone through to the next steps. I can't lose this guy, right? Like that mentality in that moment at 9 o'clock at night, when you see a great candidate and you say to yourself, or whoever's doing your recruiting says to themselves, I cannot lose this guy. That's how you get a great guy. You see a great guy and you call him at 9 o'clock at night, right? So first of all, thank you for your service, Gage, and thank you for sharing. I'm really glad that you ended up in the industry. I'm glad that we've gotten a chance to know each other over the past few years as well. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, likewise.
We've got Sean Forrest on the call. Sean, tell us how you stumbled into the industry.
Good morning, Jake. Um, well, I was a flight attendant at Delta, and I just thought,
No kidding. What a small world.
yeah, thought I'd start an alarm
Are
company.
you also married to Shannon?
Right. Um, so I think my entry to the business is probably unique among this group. I was a banker in Chicago, a lender, and one of my private equity clients that I'd done some other work for brought me a security alarm company to try to finance. And at the time, this is the mid '90s. Banks weren't funding alarm companies. They're hard to figure out where the assets are, and just atypical for lenders at the time. And I worked for a pretty entrepreneurial bank in Chicago called LaSalle, and the bank was interested in me trying to figure it out. So I thought it was intriguing. Figured out how to safely lend to the company, and and I thought it was an intriguing business. And then from there, it just sort of snowballed into something much larger, and that was because it was an underfinanced business. The more I did, the more opportunities I got. There were deals looking for me, and me looking for deals, and a lot of it was networking through existing customers, asking to be introduced to people that were good operators in the business, going to conferences, then speaking at conferences. And it's one of these industries that once you're in it for a little while, it's small. People get to know each other. People are known by their first names. largely in this industry. And I really liked that. And so my career started as financing. I became the largest lender nationwide in the industry, and then got an opportunity to work for one of my clients was buying the Honeywell security operation out of Honeywell into an independent company, and asked me to join as CFO. And and that became the HSM Group, which was later sold to Stanley and is now part of Securitas. So great opportunity to move over to the operating side and learn a lot of things I didn't know and thought I knew. And from there, I've been with several different companies as a CFO and CEO in the industry, and uh, met a lot of people. And it's like I said, it's small industry. You feel like you know everybody. And then when I was CEO of Alarm Connections, I was working with a whole group of dealers that I didn't know. So that you think you know everybody until you go to a new group and you realize there's a lot more to it. And a lot of the smaller operators, I've come to know and respect what they do as well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, glad to have you on. And so it's really been a great mix. So again, I just want to kind of recap here. We've got MBA student, we've got a high school student, young person in high school or coming out of high school. We have veteran, we have banking executive, all attracted, all different backgrounds, all attracted to this industry, and all finding that the work is meaningful, that they enjoy doing the work, that they enjoy working with the people that they work with, and has kept them in the industry all this time. I think that as we, you know, I know that millennials and Gen Z, a lot of times they kind of get this uh, maybe bad rap for job hopping, right? I think that there is a, I think that people want to do meaningful work and work with good people. And I think that as we look at millennials and as we look at Gen Z in particular, that they want that so bad that when they don't have that, they're willing to make a change, and they're willing to even forfeit whatever time and experience they have within a specific industry. I just want to point out how fascinating it is to me that we've just talked to four people, different backgrounds, all attracted to the security industry and have stuck with it, right? For the same reasons. I think those examples and those stories have to get communicated um, if we hope to attract young people to this industry. And so, um, if anybody is on this call that has recently hired somebody under 30, if you've hired somebody under 30, can you go ahead and raise your hand for me? All right. God bless you all. I'm going to say a prayer for you. Um, keep your hands up for me. John Tanner, glad to have you on the call. John, tell me, how do you explain, first of all, what was the role? What was the role that you hired this young person for?
It's tech role, technician.
Okay. Did they have
And
prior experience or no?
no, no, got him from going from a career day at a local trade school. And we go to those as many as possible. We try to attract the younger talent. I will tell you that I think the hardest age group to hire for is that 20 something, you know, you're just like, if I can just get you past that nonsense age, you'll be great, you know. And we've had a lot of success with it. We've got a really good apprentice program that we put in place because our industry is so in dire need of technicians. So we developed an entire curriculum. We partnered with our local association who has an approved educational course that we pay for. And we found that to be a pretty attractive way to get younger talent in. And I think the other piece of it too is that our industry is old enough that it has kind of a stigma of kind of being old. And I think really exposing the younger talent to the realities of our industry, you know, the fact that on large commercial projects, we build an entire infrastructure, a network infrastructure to support the cameras and access control. And we have to understand, the security layers that are there and how to properly manage all that stuff. Like that really, for us as a focus, we try to really put forward that kind of layer of technology, which really attracts the younger crowd that's into that kind of, understanding.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Number one, I want to point out a couple of things here. So, um, we talk about going to career days. I talk to so many alarm company owners and managers um, that say it's really hard to find people. And then if you really spend some time talking about, okay, well, what are you doing to find people? Well, we put a job post out, right? Um, Recruiting talent is a 24/7 job, and it requires an active effort. You have to go find these people. We kind of have to assume that most people from, my son wants to be Spider-Man, right? Like, he has not yet decided that he wants to be in the he will, he'll come around, right? And probably Spider-Man skills would be helpful running wires and things. I mean, if we could shoot, Cat 6 across an attic, that would be ideal, right? The web might not be good, but Cat 6 would be good. But, I don't think people think about us. I really don't. I mean, we are, as Sean mentions, we are a relatively small industry. That doesn't just mean that we all get to know each other. It means that we have to assume that most of the other people out there aren't in this business. They're not even thinking about this business. And maybe they misunderstand this business to be bells, right? To be door contacts and bells and sirens, and not recognizing that, hey, we're actually a pretty high tech industry involved in some pretty advanced systems integration. There's a lot of potential for technical young people to build really incredible careers in this industry that's not just limited to running wires and attics and that kind of thing. Um, so I want to call that out. Going out and finding these young people at career days. And then I want to talk about this next stage of it, which is not just finding these people, but training them through apprenticeship programs. Guys, how many times are we going to trade the same technicians between companies? I mean, I ask specifically whether you've hired somebody under 30, because I would bet that if you've hired a technician over 30, they've worked for multiple other companies by now. And I don't mean that. I don't mean to say that there's anything wrong with them. They're not defective because they've worked for other companies. But if that's our labor pool, and we all recognize that we have a shortage of technicians. Um, what a short-sighted kind of view on recruiting, right? Like we cannot continue to poach technicians or trade technicians from one company to the next. We need more folks, and so number one, going out to finding people that are looking for careers and exploring opportunities, having an apprenticeship program. John, you mentioned that there's a program approved through the association. Is that what you said? Is that the
Yeah. So our association is the MSCA,
okay?
and uh, we the Sampsons, well, Sampson, and a number of other business owners in the New England area, really about 10 years ago, worked hard to develop an educational curriculum, worked with the state to get it approved because there was a real gap. I think that's the other piece in the recruiting that a lot of folks don't realize is if you're in a state that's licensed, it requires an actual license and requires education, like Massachusetts, chances are the education most of your technicians are getting are for electricians. And there's nothing wrong with that if you want to be an electrician.
Yeah.
But if you want to be a successful low voltage technician, there's a lot of gaps in that educational piece that are missing. And so as an association, we worked with the state, developed the program, and it's been really successful. And it's something that we're heavily involved with. And we incentivize our apprentices. We pay for the program. There's a lot we do to keep them. The other piece I'll add, and this kind of in the same vein, if you're not treating your recruiting the same way you treat your marketing for sales, you're missing out. Like there should be no separation in church and state there. Your marketing team should be creating marketing material for your recruitment. You should show up at a job fair the same way you show up a sales, yeah, right? At an expo. You have the desk, you've got the drape, you've got the stuff standing up, you've got the whole thing going on. Because it is a small industry, right? What are we, 33, 34% penetration as an industry? We're really not beating up each other for leads. We run into each other, but more likely a lot of our sales are one shop sales, right? They called one company, that company came out, gave them the product they want, and they went out the door. So there's a lot of going on in our industry that we have to expose people to. And that's one of the ways to do it is really treat it like a marketing program. Have money set aside for it. I think right now we've got 28 apprentices in our program.
Wow.
And it's a multi-year course that takes multi-years with field time and everything. And we always try to have someone coming in, someone on year 2, and someone coming out.
Yeah, I love the idea of treating these job fairs with the same level of importance as, a home show or some other technology show where an expo where you have your salespeople exhibiting. Because I can guarantee you that what's more important than your next customer is your next employee, right? Like you may or may not get the you may or may not get a customer at that expo, right? It could still be worthwhile, whatever, right? But if you go to a job fair and you hire a great person, right? How much is that worth to your organization over the life of over the tenure of their career? I mean, that can really it's meaningful. And so I want to applaud you, John, for the position that you take on that. I want to thank the Samsons and everybody that's involved in the association there for doing such meaningful work. Guys, this is something that I'm particularly passionate about. Workforce development is an incredibly important role of our associations. If you are not a member of your association, your state association, the Electronic Security Association, whether you are going to spearhead workforce development or not, supporting the associations that do that on your behalf is so critically important. As an industry, we really, really absolutely have to be focused on that. Shannon, I don't know if would you be willing to just very quickly kind of tell us about work? We've done so much in workforce development recently. Can you tell us, the folks on the call, kind of how we've and I say we, I'm taking credit because I'm, involved in the association. I really can't. There's some really great people that have invested a lot of time in this, but tell us a little bit about workforce development here, particularly in the state of Florida.
Sure, absolutely. So last year we launched a website specifically to raise awareness about our industry that it even exists, right? Especially with young people, and to ensure that people understand the different career paths and the opportunities with the industry once we kind of capture their attention. So that website, specifically if you're in Florida, it's secureyourcareer.org. Of course, anybody can visit it, but it really is designed by the Integration Association of Florida. And what we do is we attract people in through that website. They fill out a form, and then we are kind of cultivating all of the leads that we were able to generate. So the IAF board of directors a year and a half ago now had actually approved a pretty significant budget to invest in this. So we launched a very aggressive paid media campaign in the middle of August last year. We ran it through December. And through that, we were actually able to generate over 800 leads of people that were essentially raising their hand to say, I want to learn more about the industry. I'm interested in working in the industry. How can you help me? And so in Florida, we also have great relationships with a lot of schools and universities, tech schools, and what we've done is we're trying to funnel those folks that have shown interest into either the school programs directly, where we have low voltage programs, because then what we do is we work with those program directors very closely. So upon graduation, when those students are coming out, we're getting them placed with our members. companies, and that's been highly effective. And then from there, if somebody's just not in a position where they can sign up for a low voltage program, but they're interested, obviously we have some larger member companies that have great onboarding and training programs where we can get them employed directly with them. In other cases, we have our Alarm Academy, which they can take online courses. It's not as much of a commitment as having to go to Florida State College at Jacksonville or Palm Beach State College, something like that, where they can actually take some entry level classes, show that they have initiative, show that they want to learn about the industry. And again, we have a job board on that Secure Your Career website so they can post their resume, they can show what they're doing to show that initiative and hopefully connect them with one of our members through that process as well. So that's in a kind of quick high level nutshell of what we're doing there. We also have a workforce development toolkit for our members that helps them understand how to work a career fair. There's job posting templates for them, where to post jobs, all of those things that we've kind of just been touching on a bit here in terms of recruitment, hiring, retaining techniques, et cetera.
That hasn't cost us anything, right, Shannon? None of that work costs time or money. Like we're not. Has anybody had to invest any time or money into getting this done?
The association.
Yeah. So like I want to point it out, guys. Like, we talk about all of these things. And so many times in the conversations I have with integrators, they say, I ask them if they're a member of their association, whether it's their state association or ESA, which is the national association. They say, well, what does it do for me? Right. All of that stuff that Shannon talks about, we talk about SIA and ESA's Foundation for Advancing Security Talent as well, which has the same mission. All of that stuff costs money. It costs time. It costs us to staff our associations with really brilliant, capable people, and also to recruit really awesome volunteers that also volunteer their time. But I want to just point out, and I want to call this out. If you're not a member of your association, please join your association, your state association, ESA. I'm going to drop a link. And Shannon, if you drop a link to the Florida Workforce Development, I'm going to drop a link here as well for a link to FAST, which is the Foundation for Advancing Security of Talent. That's a foundation put together through ESA and SIA. But guys, it's so important that we support that mission. All right. Thank you so much, Shannon, for sharing that.
Thank you.
We have Steve Quantock on the call. Steve, tell us about hiring somebody under 30. They still working there? How long?
Yeah.
When did they start?
One started about 8 months ago.
Wow. Cool. I mean, they've made it 8 months. This is impressive tenure already. Way to go.
Yeah.
Tell us how you made that happen.
Yeah, I don't know. We put a job post out. He had a little bit of experience in the industry, which was great. He knew enough to be dangerous, and we put him through our little training program that we have here, which is 60 days on the road minimum with a technician senior to him to learn our way of doing stuff and the right way to do the wrong stuff. And he has a really good work ethic, and he has a small family to support, and he's just a grinder, and we got lucky with him, and turns out to be one of our best hires so far in the last 2 years. So, and then right behind him came another guy under 30, and he had a little bit of experience in a different industry, still low voltage, but more residential work, AV residential work. And he picked up the fire and the security, no problem. And both of those gentlemen have been doing outstanding work. They run circles around some of our senior guys, which is hysterical.
I think that's a couple of things. Really, we talk about him having a small family to support. Gosh, if there isn't any, I don't know what can motivate you more, right? I mean, once you have a family, and we talk about young people, and not to say you should only hire young people with families, but gosh, when you find a young man that or woman, but generally speaking, for technician role, we're seeing a lot of guys in those roles, right? You find a young man that is trying to support a family, and he realizes that he could make money as a technician and have like pretty reasonable hours. I think that, for the most part, technicians typically have reasonable work hours, right? So Steve, talk to us about that real quick because I do want to point this out. People with young families generally want to see their families, right? And so talk to me about schedules, Steve. How do you schedule somebody like this tech with a young family?
So
You're like, I
we're
work them 18 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, so, like the majority of us on this call probably are working for small family run businesses, and that's what my business is, small family run business. And, I prioritize my family before everything else and my own health before everything else. Sometimes customers, but that's just the way the world has to work in order to survive. And we grind that, drive that, pound it into every one of our technicians that, if you've got an issue at home, we need to know we don't wanna know what it is unless you wanna tell us, but we're gonna do everything we can to put you back home, and make sure that you're taking care of what is most important to you and what makes you get up in the morning. It's not the job, it's your kid, it's your wife, it's your girlfriend, it's your boyfriend, whatever. So we grind that into them until they just don't ask anymore. And their schedule is, whatever it needs to be. We have set hours as a company, but if I got a technician who can't do something in the afternoon, but would rather do it in the morning and he'll start at 5, then fine. Start at 5 on the job site and work till noon. And then you're off at 2 o'clock or whatever time you need to be off to take care of your kids, soccer practice or whatever it is. I mean, that was instilled in me a long time ago by a boss that I had at a big major corporation, and he was very, very generous with my time. So I've in turn taken that and just made it the same way in my own company. And we really pound the crap out of that into people here. Make sure they understand.
I think it's so important. You mentioned pounding that into your people, right? What I would say is reinforcing those values as a company and living those values as a company is so important to retention because it's easy to say that we prioritize families as a company and we want you to prioritize your family. And then when a technician says, hey guys, look, I need to be off by 4 p.m. every Thursday, right? I have a thing. I need to be off every day or every Thursday at 4 p.m. Now, scheduling has to understand that he can't be put on a job at 3:30 p.m. on Thursday, right? That has to be something that, like, if you're going to if you're going to have that value and live that value, it needs to be understood throughout your organization that if there is a guardrail put in place on time, and there are, I mean, there's got to be, there are priorities and things that people have. You can't conflict with it because if I tell you that my daughter has basketball every Thursday at I need to be out at 4 p.m. to take her to basketball practice. I'm the coach, right? I mean, I'm not the coach. I would be the worst basketball coach, by the way. Like, don't make me a coach. But if I was, and I said I need to be gone every day at 4 p.m., and you repeatedly are making me feel like I can't actually do that, even if you told me at the interview that we prioritize family, you have to demonstrate that value, right? Because
Yep.
people will take a job based on the perception of that culture, but they're going to stay with a job when they recognize that, hey, these aren't just talking points. This isn't just, fluff. They actually mean it, right? So,
Yep.
really good on you for that. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm going to jump to Anthony Fermani. Anthony, you were crazy enough to hire somebody under 32. Tell me about that.
I did it a couple times.
Okay. Well, it takes a
so
couple times to get it to stick.
I ever since I started, like I know they say never hire friends, and ever since I started, I basically hired friends. But I didn't. I think I knew their strengths and weaknesses, so it wasn't like I interviewed them, but I knew them. I didn't just hire any friend. Um, it always worked out well for me. Even guys that moved on to bigger and better things, they'll still help me out if I need an extra set of hands. But specifically during COVID, it was early summer of 2020. And I had two of my guys, and we just had monster job after monster job for the whole summer. And I couldn't keep up. So I have another friend, Danny. He owns a landscaping company. Every winter from like November, December until March, he automatically comes on and works with us. And he's been great. I knew it was summertime and he was busy, but I was desperate. So I said, "Hey, do you have any time?" And he's like, "No, I'm swamped." But he said, this kid, Taylor, um, who was a general manager at this bar that we all hung out at. He's like, every once in a while, he helps me. I know he's looking for work. So I just thought, oh, this is going to be a bad idea. I knew Taylor, he's a bar manager, doesn't know anything about construction or running wires or electronics. But I was like, you know what? I just need a hand. So I called Taylor. I said, would you help out for like a month or two? And he said, yeah, he was, I think, 26 at the time. And he came out and picked up pretty quickly. And I don't know how far in it was. I'm going to say maybe a month in. I was programming something. I want to say it was a Vista panel. And I was just kind of, as I'm doing it, explaining why I was doing things. And he came, I don't remember what exactly it was, but he came back with, oh, yeah, because the Vista panel does this and that. And I just looked at him like, what? How do you know that? He said, every time I work on something, I go home and watch YouTube videos on it. So I was like, all right, I was impressed.
I do actually want to point that out, guys. One of the strengths I think of young people is, gosh, they're so good at finding the answers to things, right? They may not know everything. They may not know, you may have a seasoned tech that knows every programming field on a Vista 20P by heart and could program it without ever looking at a book. But like the second something weird comes up, he's like taking forever to get an answer. Meanwhile, you have a Gen Zer that whips out their phone and puts it in a chat GPT and gets an answer, quickly and doesn't spend, all that time trying to figure it out. So, yeah, just a little shout out to Gen Z. I feel like I was being a little hard on him there for a bit. So I want to give him some kudos. So he impressed you with that. And then how long has he been there?
Well, so he not only impressed me with being able to find the answer, but his initiative really impressed me. And it just continued and got better. He learned so quickly. So he's now my lead technician.
Wow.
I think he's about to turn 31. Then one of our other guys had a good opportunity in the IT field, which was really his background. So he left. He still helps me out occasionally. And we needed like one more person. So Taylor said, that fall, the bar that he worked at was opening back up. And he told me, and I was like, you've got a full-time job here if you want it. And he's, obviously been here since.
Yeah, but you could have drank for free at the bar.
I know everybody there. I could still drink for free there. It's funny that.
So he stayed on. So I guess the moral of the story is this guy that you took a shot on, that did not have experience in the industry, but had, I would assume, probably a really good personality because, bartenders typically are, personable people, and a strong work ethic, a workout. And now he's a lead tech. And that's a success story. And guys, I think that if there's anything we've learned from the call today, it's that there are good people out there. There's good people for this business. They do come from all different backgrounds, of all different ages. I know that we all know people 30 and up that we think of, yeah, we could hire some top talent in there. I specifically wanted to talk about under 30 because I think that that's probably one of the hardest demographics to kind of tap into. And these are folks that we really need to attract. And I think that we need to go out and actively pursue them, right? We need to do that through job fairs, through internships, through active recruiting in places that we might not expect, right? when we meet somebody that we think, hey, this person seems to be the right kind of person, then that's the kind of person that we talk to about a role within the company, whether that's sales or that's technical or administrative, customer service, whatever it is, right? We have to pursue these people. Um, we are a small industry, but we desperately need good talent, right? I want to remind everybody to please support their associations. Guys, we have this call every Friday at 11 a.m. If there are ever any topics, any concerns, any challenges, any opportunities that you'd like to kind of hash out on one of the upcoming calls, please feel free to email it to me. I want to thank you all for being on here. I want to thank those of you that chimed in and shared your experiences and your expertise. For everybody else that just listened in, we're glad you're here too. If you do business with us, I want to thank you for that. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to serve many of you as your distributor. I'm thankful for the opportunity to print your logos and the products that you install. If you don't do business with us, please reach out to me. I'd love the opportunity to support your business. But whether you do business with us or not, you're always welcome on this call. I hope to see you next Friday at 11 a.m. Thanks so much. And to the moms on the call, happy Mother's Day.